This is Mike from fearshop.com. Make sure you like this video and leave your comments. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell to set up notifications so you know when the next video drops. Let's get into it. The Thing is a 1982 American science fiction horror film directed by John Carpenter and written by Bill Lancaster. This classic horror film is based on the 1938 John W. Campbell Jr. novella Who Goes There, and tells the story of a group of American researchers in Antarctica who encountered the Thing, a parasitic extraterrestrial life form that assimilates, then imitates other organisms. The group is overcome by paranoia and conflict as they learn that they no longer can trust each other and that any one of them could be the Thing. The film stars Kurt Russell as the team's helicopter pilot R.J. McCready and features A. Wilford Brimley, T.K. Carter, David Clennon, Keith David, Richard Dysart, Charles Hallahan, Peter Maloney, Richard Masur, Donald Moffat, Joel Polis, and Thomas G. Waits in supporting roles. The Thing is often referred to as a remake of the 1951 movie The Thing from Another World, but that's patently wrong. Though both films are based on John W. Campbell Jr.'s 1938 novella Who Goes There, Carpenter didn't want to compete with the first film, which he was a fan of. So he instead returned to the source material for inspiration. He did pay homage to the 1951 effort though. The screen where they find the alien has been excavated from the ice was a nod to the first film, despite stressing the differences. The director of the 1950s version, Christopher Nidey, was quick to criticize Carpenter's movie, something that upset the filmmaker greatly. The Thing was in development for nearly a decade before Carpenter came on board. Producer Stuart Cohen was the first to see the potential in adapting Who Goes There, having enjoyed the novella as a child. Cohen met with Carpenter first, and he was keen to collaborate with the budding filmmaker, but the studio, Universal, was hesitant. Carpenter had yet to make Halloween at this point. Tobe Hooper, fresh from the success of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, was chosen instead. According to Cohen, writing on his blog, The Original Fan, Hooper and creative collaborator King Henkel wanted to make a man versus monster epic set at the bottom of the world, a sort of Antarctica Moby Dick with an Ahab-like character, battling a large but decidedly non-shape-shifting creature. This differed significantly from Cohen's vision, though, and resulting in a parting of the ways. Discussions were held with John Landis before the project found its way back to Carpenter a few years later. Production began in the mid-1970s as a faithful adaptation of the novella, following 1951's The Thing from Another World. The Thing went through several directors and writers, each with different ideas on how to approach the story. Filming lasted roughly 12 weeks beginning in August of 1981 and took place on refrigerated sets in Los Angeles as well as in Juneau, Alaska and Stewart, British Columbia. Of the film's $15 million budget, $1.5 million was spent on Rob Bottin's creatures effects, a mixture of chemicals, food products, rubber, and mechanical parts, turned by his large team into aliens capable of taking on any form. The Thing was released in 1982 to very negative reviews. It was described as instant junk, a wretched excess, and proposed as the most hated film of all time by film magazine Cinefantastique. Reviews both praised the special effects and achievements and criticized their visual repulsiveness, while others focused on poor characterization. The film earned $19.6 million during its theatrical run. Many reasons have been cited for its failure to impress audiences. Competition from films such as E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which offered an optimistic take on alien visitation, a summer that had been filled with successful science fiction and fantasy films, and an audience living through a recession diametrically opposed to The Thing's nihilistic tone. Carpenter fully blamed the theatrical failure of The Thing on E.T.'s success as it came out 2 weeks before The Thing. The two films could not have been more different in their portrayals of aliens, and Carpenter felt the fans resonated more with the cute, cuddly alien than his version. The film finally found an audience when released on home video and television. In the years since, it has been reappraised as one of the best science fiction and horror films ever made and has gained a cult following. Filmmakers have noticed its influence on their work and has been referred to in other media such as television and video games. The Thing has spawned a variety of merchandise including 1982 novelization, haunted house attractions, board games, and sequels in comic books, video game of the same name, a 2011 prequel film of the same name. A remake was announced in 2020. What became a classic film almost did not get filmed at all. Actually, the cast almost died on their way to filming. Once the cast was assembled, they headed off to the set in British Columbia. After flying from Los Angeles to Vancouver and then on to Prince Rupert in British Columbia, bad weather forced the cast to take a 6-hour bus ride for the final leg of the trip. Driving in the snowy darkness, the bus came close to sliding off the side of the road. The driver had momentarily lost control of the bus on the snow and ice, and the back of the bus slid to the left towards the mountain. He countered by turning to the right, and the bus slid again, this time towards the unprotected edge of the road. At least 4 members of the team from Outpost 31 had alternative death scenes which were either cut or went unfilmed after changes to the script. In the film, the burned remains of Fuchs, played by Joel Polis, are found out in the snow, but in the deleted scene he's discovered by Childs, played by Keith David, and Palmer, played by David Clennon, impaled on the inside of the door in the station's greenhouse. Another deleted scene sees Bennings, played by Peter Maloney, stabbed in the back with a screwdriver by an unidentified person in a blue coat inside the kennels. Other alternative storyboarded scenes include Bennings getting dragged beneath the ice by an escaped dog thing, Knowles, played by T.K. Carter, dying in gorier circumstances at the hand of a box thing, and Windows getting dragged out by the alien, swallowing a cyanide capsule before he is assimilated. With a sizable budget behind him, Universal set about trying to cast some of the biggest stars and rising talent at the time for the film's all-male cast. Jeff Bridges, Nick Nolte, Sam Shepard, Chris Christopherson were all approached and either turned down the project or were simply unavailable. Scott Glenn, Ed Harris, Peter Coyote, Fred Ward, Isaac Hayes, Tom Berenger, Tim McIntyre, and John Hurd all held talks about potentially appearing in the movie, though those discussions also came to nothing. Tom Adkins was also in contention, though in the end, Australian actor Jack Thompson came closest to changing the trajectory of the thing. Thompson was hot property at the time, having won the Best Supporting Actor award for the Australian war and trial drama Breaker Morant at the 1982 Cannes Film Festival, and was flown in to personally read for Carpenter. Ultimately, the director decided to hire Kurt Russell as he was a better fit. Though the film is often credited as having an all-male cast, Adrienne Barbeau, who was Carpenter's partner at the time, played the part of the chess wizard, the chess-playing computer that Kurt Russell's MacReady dumps a whole glass of J&B on after losing. Carpenter also featured in the film and makes a habit of appearing, albeit briefly, in the majority of his movies. In The Thing, he plays one of the Norwegians seen on the footage found at their deserted and destroyed base camp. It is a very brief cameo. Rob Bottin was already an established name in the world of special effects when he was hired to work on The Thing, which is remarkable when you consider he was just 22 at the time. First hired by special effects legend Rick Baker at the age of 14, Bottin's early credits include films like King Kong, Piranha, The Howling, and even Star Wars. His first collaboration with Carpenter came on The Fog, but it was on The Thing that he really made a name for himself. Bottin worked 7 days a week on the movie and headed up a team of 40 technicians. These days, Wilford Brimley may be better known for his warnings about the dangers of diabetes, but back on the set of The Thing, the actor who played Blair was pretty awesome. Brimley didn't break into acting until he was in his 40s, leading a colorful and varied life up until that point. In his younger days, he worked as Howard Hughes' bodyguard and was also a blacksmith, wrangler, and ranch hand. He was certainly the toughest guy on the set of The Thing. During the movie's famous autopsy scene, Brimley was the only actor who wasn't repulsed by what the special effects team created. It made sense. As a ranch hand, Brimley would have helped in the birth of many animals. He was also an avid hunter, meaning he'd most likely seen several die by his own hand. One of the most shocking early scares in The Thing comes during the moment the Alaskan Malamute from the Norwegian base camp is left alone with the station's sled dogs, prompting the first major metamorphosis of the movie. While Stan Winston was the brains behind the visuals, the work of sound editor Colin Moffat often gets overlooked. To create the hellish dog whale wall of sound present in the film, Moffat went to some pretty unusual lengths. He started by rounding up all the dogs in his local neighborhood inside his house. He then began walking slowly around the house in a dark trench coat while tapping on all the windows. doors in an attempt to elicit a yowling, fearful response. It worked. The movie's most shocking metamorphosis comes during the sequence in which Dr. Cooper, played by Richard Dysart, tries to revive Norris, played by Charles Hallahan, with a defibrillator following a supposed heart attack. As Cooper presses the paddles to his skin, Norris' chest opens with the doctor's forearms dropping inside. In a split second, they're severed below the elbow with a set of jaws that form around a cavity on the Norris/Thing's chest. To achieve the effect, Botten recruited a man who had lost both of his arms in a similar place. He was fitted with prosthetic arms consisting of wax bones, rubber-based veins, and jello blood, along with a skin-like mask was created based on a mold of Dysart's face. It was then a case of fitting the fake wax and jelly arms into the cavity and filming the amputee extra pulling his real-life arms away to create the effect that they had just been severed. In the confrontation between MacReady and the Palmer Thing, actor Kurt Russell came surprisingly close to very seriously injuring himself. During the scene, MacReady fights back against the alien by throwing a stick of dynamite in the direction of the Thing. What most fans probably don't know is that was real dynamite used for the scene. What Russell evidently didn't realize was just how powerful real dynamite actually is. As a result, he failed to take the necessary precautions to move further away from the blast radius. The result was that Russell found himself literally blown backward by an explosion. Thankfully, he was unscathed, though, and the resulting blast, complete with Russell being thrown back, looked so convincing on film, Carpenter decided to keep it in the movie. Part of the thing's enduring appeal stems from the fact that it's a film that keeps on giving, with any number of fan theories and subtle Easter eggs emerging in the decades since it was released. One of the more recent of these concerns the work of cinematographer Dean Cundey and the film's famous blood test scene, in which MacReady attempts to discover who the alien among them, testing each character's blood. During an interview with Blumhouse for the 4K Blu-ray release of the film, Cundey revealed that they created a subtle way to say which of these men might be human. You'll notice there's always an eye light, we call it, a little gleam in the eye of the actor. It gives life, he said. Sure enough, all the actors had light in their eyes, except Palmer. During the movie's chest chomp scene, the Norris Thing's head famously separates from its body before growing legs and attempting to scuttle off into hiding. Rick Botten used highly flammable materials to create the gooey, gross-out interior of the creature's neck in the scene. However, that proved to be a bit of a problem when Carpenter decided that for continuity reasons, some flames needed to be included in the shots, focusing in on the head as it separated away. MacReady had just torched the Norris Thing's body with a flamethrower after all. A fire bar was lit, almost without thinking, and the room erupted in a giant ball of flame caused by the flammable gases present. Thankfully, no one was hurt, though the Norris Thing model created for the scene was basically destroyed. Botten had been working on it for months. The film's bleak, ambiguous ending has been a source of much discussion over the years. Regardless of whether you think MacReady or indeed Childs is the alien by the end, one thing is for sure, it's bleak. So bleak, in fact, that editor Todd Ramsey was able to convince Carpenter to film a happy ending just in case the one in place ended up testing badly with audiences and needed replacing. An alternative was therefore filmed in which MacReady is rescued and shown in a room, being given a blood test to determine whether or not he's actually been assimilated. He passes and the credits roll. Despite being filmed, the scene has never seen the light of day, with Carpenter preferring to stick by the ending he intended all along. Interestingly, another equally bleak alternative ending existed for the TV version, which seems the alien transform into a dog and escape. So that wraps this one up. I want to hear from you. Post your thoughts on this video and let me know how this film impacted your love for horror. That's it for this episode. Make sure you like this video, make sure you share this video, make sure you subscribe, but most of all, make sure you keep it horror.